We kind of realized our empty nest life has kind of been whipped away. This is the Loud Quiet Living the Empty Nest.
Welcome back to the Loud Quiet, episode 45. We never know how things are going to get started here, and for those that are watching the video, somebody has decided to make an appearance.
I think he's obsessed with every TV now is the problem.
Probably.
Because if you have Roku, and when it goes to the screen that's the timed out screen, there's cars that go across the bottom. He is obsessed with them. And the minute he sees it, he pops up there and tries to get them. Well, then when one of us hits a button and it's gone, he just sits by the TV waiting for He's like a kid waiting for
And the cars were up here earlier. Oh. Now, I was thinking, though, because he was sniffing there in the mug, that he was just so excited about the potential, the Loud Quiet merch, that he wanted his own mug. Yeah. So, remember.
Now he's behind the curtain messing with stuff.
So this episode is not about me, but that apparently is how we're going to get episode 45 started off, the little nut.
Gosh. Yeah, go B. He's a little thrown off because there's been a lot of things going on.
And just different. Even as we've talked about how the summer has changed, the empty nest, and kids coming back, it's been even real different over the last couple weeks, couple days.
Yeah, and, we were talking yesterday about, what do we want to do this week? And we kind of realized our empty nest life has kind of been whipped away from because we've just been focused on, and we'll get into what all we've been focused on, but first we start, like I shared last week, I was getting over COVID, still not 100%. I'm good, went back to work. Then you started feeling not great, but it was not COVID. I think yours is just an allergy or some little bug or something.
At this point, it's definitely a bug. I'll admit it. Some sort of summer cold.
But so we were both just kind of not feeling great, under the weather. 4th of July came. Teagan was working. Tanner's not in town. I think we kind of felt like we needed to go through the motions, so we got in the pool for a while. We grilled.
Even that, I know this, and this is going to sound so Vivaldi snotty. We got in the pool, but we were just not into anything.
And it was so blazing hot.
Well, yeah.
That you had to be in the pool, which is fine, but it was still it just was sucking the life out of both of us.
And when you don't have the energy to start off with.
Yeah. So
I'm actually kind of glad, because a lot of times 4th we invite folks over because we've got that kind of thing. I'm really glad we didn't, because I could not have drummed up the energy to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. You and I barely talked.
No. So then, we finally kind of around, 8:30, we were like, well, maybe we should just get out and go drive up. Luckily, we live close enough to the PGA. Normally, we could just walk up to that bridge. You and I were both like, I can't do it. Yeah. I mean, I already had on my pajamas.
And you even said to me, we're not getting out, right?
Yeah.
And it was close, but we heard some booms. We're like, all right, let's go ahead and go.
Yeah, and we did, and it was good.
It was really good.
We stood there's a bridge on this road, which, like you said, we probably won't be able to do that next year.
It's a brand new road that's on the back side of the PGA, and a small, let's call it 20, 30 cars thought about this. Mm-hmm. Next year, it's going to be hundreds. There's going to be, because we're blocking the road and that sort of thing. And so that it's going to get blocked off.
It used to be in the years before, everyone would migrate over to where you could see the FC Dallas fireworks without having to be in all that chaos, which poor Teagan got stuck in all that chaos. But now, PGA is around the corner, and on the screen for those of you watching is just a picture of the fireworks.
I want to add here, so fireworks, that's a key part of 4th of July, and you and I, we even spent a little time talking about what were our 4th of July traditions. Did we do fireworks, that sort of thing? But it's fireworks. Well, we'd heard that there was something at the PGA. We didn't want to go to the actual location. We want to do this backside over here, and we show up and it's a drone show.
Which you were excited
I
about.
was.
Don't act like you were.
Well, let me finish.
Well,
I was absolutely excited. And then as it kept going, I realized, yeah, I'm not such a big fan of this because where are the fireworks? We could see them off in the distance. And then the drones count down 3, 2, 1, and we were so happy.
So many people are like, oh, the drones put the fireworks to shame. No, they don't, because I still like to see the drone is just a still picture. And then it moves, but it's not. Well, it's fabricated. It's fake. I don't like fake things.
It's cool.
Even though some of my body is fake. I don't like fake things.
And there's our clip. It's cool though. It's technologically amazing. So this is not a drone versus fireworks, but I'm definitely in team firework after that. And I'm so thankful that it did pop off.
I am too, because when we got out and I said, if this is it, I'm getting back in the car going home, because I was starting to sweat. I was tired. So that was our fun-filled empty nest 4th of July.
Yeah, I hope that we have better energy in the future. But it was still fun. Yeah. And you force yourself into that sort of thing. This was, unlike some of the other things, this was an example of the utter flexibility you have in the empty nest. If we'd had younger kids, if we'd had other plans, it was the two of us sitting at home at 8:50 saying, all right, let's drive over to the bridge. And we could. And
there was the family next to us had boys, and they were fighting, and they were, and it's like, oh, yeah.
And we were just quiet.
It was funny because the night before, I was tired from work and stuff that day. And so I was like, I can't go to the grocery store right now. So again, at like 8:15, we were like, hey, let's just run up to H-E-B. Teagan was like, okay, I'll come with. Oh my gosh. Worst mistake ever. I mean, it was
almost like the day before Thanksgiving. It had that kind of vibe.
I mean, there were no buns.
Yeah.
Teagan luckily saw the last package of hot dog buns.
And a guy behind her said, oh, those are the last ones.
And another at the other H-E-B, my friend happened to be there at the same time. She said, there were no hot dogs. None. So, I mean, it was chaos. It was so crowded. And luckily we got in, we got out.
It was nice to have a 19-year-old as your child with you. Air quote child, as opposed to dragging around kids to a store then.
Yeah. So that was another.
Living the empty nest.
Which, as we will get into, we don't really feel like right now we're doing as good of a job as we did when the kids weren't, physically here or mentally here, because everything we've been doing this week has been focused on children.
On the kids. And it is, we came to that epiphany, I don't know, a couple days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, just when we were talking about the show, that we did such a good job. Okay, let's go do this activity. And think back to episode 4, 5, 6, and not even just episode, just life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even conversations we'd have, or ways we operated our lives. And now we've returned to a kid focus. And it's not abusively so. It just, we realize suddenly, wait, we are still empty nesters.
When you just said that, it made me think of when you said, conversations and that kind of thing. I feel like our conversations lately, like all of May, all of June, were about a certain subject. Your mom's death, and everything revolved around that. I mean, I really feel that way. 99% of our conversations had to deal with
it's a fact.
All of that. We haven't barely talked about any of that stuff, except making a plan to go down to Austin in a couple of weeks. Now it's shifted to everything is revolving around getting Tanner ready for his apartment and getting Teagan ready for her apartment. I even went with Teagan this week to her physical appointment, which with a 19-year-old is, hilarious. I mean, the nurse even asked before, she said, now, are you okay if I ask these questions in front of your mom? And Teagan was like, oh, yeah. She said, first of all, we tell each other everything. And she said, second of all, I'm really boring. So the answers are going to be really
we're all good. Now, you didn't say this, but for those that don't know you didn't, it wasn't you wanted to go to this. You were asked to join Teagan.
Yes.
So you are not inserting yourself.
No.
She asked you.
No. Yeah. So now we move on to,
and so the big thing is, or the big activity lately has been getting ready for Tanner's apartment. And, there's an element in there. Well, okay, so getting ready for a first apartment, a first unfurnished.
First adult apartment.
Unfurnished apartment. Because any college dorm / apartment life that he's been in has always been a furnished situation. And so we even were talking about, measuring cups. And so on the screen,
well, that stuff's not furnished in their college apartments. But the furniture,
the point is
and
that
all
there's
that
stuff
is,
that,
sure, but
things that you even mentioned vacuum cleaner, right? There's just stuff that we're going to have to, or he's going to have to get, we're going to have to get. That's even a conversation that you and I have had. And so, on the screen is you found a
first apartment checklist, and it's obviously from a British person's perspective, I think, because
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because they call it a waste bin.
Oh, well, at least it's not a rubbish.
And there's different. I mean, at least that's. I don't know how many people call it waste bin, but
I've never said waste bin.
No. So it actually is pretty good because, one of the things we did this week was go to IKEA and pick up a coffee table and end tables that I had seen. And as we were walking through the kitchen area, I was like, oh my gosh, it's really, I kind of like it. It's kind of fun.
Sure.
But it is, we had some of that stuff, but the majority of our stuff now is from our wedding registry because, it wasn't too long after, but it's everything. Like he doesn't have, there's nothing. So it's going to be.
And I did live, what are the years? I guess 5 years in post-college apartment life before we got married and moved in at the Martell home.
And I was traveling, so I didn't really have a home base. But
and most of my stuff, it's hard to remember, but a lot of it was hand-me-down. And I think that actually is something that you and I had a lot of discussion about, and even, I'll just say, a disagreement about, of getting into his first apartment. How much of it is we furnishing and doing all of that versus, hey, you're an adult now, you furnish. And there's the tension of, not between you, me tension, but just the tension of, he's an adult, but he's not making any income because he's a student. And what does that mean? How are we still the parent, but he's a 22-year-old? All of that made for some healthy discussion.
Well, and I will say the bulk of the furniture he's taking from our
bed,
house.
The couch.
I mean, we had a couch in here, and I can kind of hear the echo a little bit because we did have a sofa in here that we've moved out of the room. He is taking with him.
Wait, you're letting folks know that this isn't a professional studio?
But
you would not believe what's behind the camera, y'all.
I have our old Vilroy and Bosch, however you say it, I know, dishes, but I'm like, it's almost more of a pain to get those down and try to pack than to just pick up the pack from IKEA that I saw for $28.
Yeah.
It's like, it's things like that you started thinking about, I think one of the discussions we got into, you were like, let him just take our kitchen table and we'll get a new one. But I was like, no, it's kind of banged up. You're like, well, we're not making this. And I never said I was making this anything fancy. I never said I was buying him a top of the line kitchen table. But, and I said, and the chair colors don't match, and you said, why do things have to match? And I said, well, it can look nice.
and that is exactly the different perspectives that you and I came into this, because I remember the stuff that I had in my apartment. The one nice thing that I had in my apartment was a couch, and it was a sleeper sofa that I bought. Actually, I think my mom and dad helped subsidize that, and a lot of it was because when they came and stayed, I had a one-bedroom apartment. They didn't have anywhere to stay because they'd be coming up from Austin, and the rest of the stuff was kind of mix and match. Heck, the joke that I talk about, or not joke, the story I tell is I couldn't afford cable and I didn't have any furniture for my TV. So I sat on the floor most nights in the summer before I started traveling for my job, watching the Rangers broadcast because it was over the air. And so I had this perspective going in of, hey, it's first apartment. It doesn't have to be the final apartment, the nice apartment, that sort of thing. And that actually got us into and I'll just say healthy discussion, but yeah, we were disagreeing over it.
I think one difference there is that was not your mom. One of her biggest strengths was the outside of the house, the landscaping, the planting. She enjoyed all that. She didn't really care what the inside,
I get what you're saying. It's a little too strong of a sentence because you certainly outsourced it and hired people to help her design it. Yeah.
Yes, but she did not. I mean, that couch that has been there since I came into the so it's
design one and done, and I'm out. Yep, absolutely. There was not a lot of refreshing that took place,
and so I like to decorate. I enjoy it. Yeah. I like to do the interior. Now outside, no. Inside the house is my domain. I enjoy putting things together, and I feel like I have a good eye for that kind of stuff. So I enjoy this. It doesn't feel like a burden to me. Now, it feels like a burden to me when that's all we've been doing.
Well, and that point of again, that's exactly it. It's not a burden for you. You enjoy it. I'm also thinking, yeah, but he should be involved. And one thing that's different here, he should be involved. It's his choices. It doesn't matter what cushions we want to put on a couch. He's the one that should be doing that, even if we are going to fund it. However, he's not here. And the timing of this is actually in such a way that he kind of needs us to get him set up, because when he gets back to Dallas, we're talking about days, not weeks, that individual days that he has available between when he arrives and when school starts that aren't occupied. So I get it that it's slightly different because of that. Yeah,
and that's one thing, like here's the dust that I picked out. That is one thing that you keep saying, and like you said, we had some discussions, and it irritates me. Like even yesterday when I said I want to go to At Home and get some throw pillows, and you're like, do you know that he wants pillows? And I was like, okay, look, he has given me, I have asked every time, do you care if I go ahead and set your kitchen up? Do you care if and I send him pictures of things. I don't buy anything now, kitchen stuff. He trusts me. Yeah. He has lived with me for, 22 years. He knows how I decorate our house. He's fine with me getting his stuff ready. So it's not like I'm doing it. I know, but you said it again yesterday. Don't you think you need to find out if he wants pillows? The child lays on and I said, do you use the pillows on our couch? Oh, yeah. Yes. So
there is, it's fun. I can almost feel like we're doing it again. And that's okay. There's also I know he trusts you. There's no doubt in my mind that he was like, yeah, totally. Remember how I said my mom outsourced it to a design? He's effectively outsourcing this to a design person, someone that's willing to do that. There's a little part of me, and it could be the dad in me, it could be the male in me that's like, hang on, man, you're 22, you're independent, you should be doing this stuff on your own. And that's where I go back to, but he's not here. He can't.
But again, you didn't do it on your own.
Well, I didn't do it.
Your mom, what do you mean?
I didn't decorate. I mean, there were no cushions on my couch.
But your mom came up and I'm sure helped you buy the couch, went and probably helped you unpack. I'm guessing she was probably around. Maybe.
I would imagine the unmove was the couch. Your point is still spot on. The specific about the couch, no, I did that because I bought it after I moved, and that was well into me.
I know my friend whose son, is now living in Arizona. She flew out there, and they went shopping together. It's just Tanner's not here to go shopping together, but. Basically, we're shopping together when I show him pictures of things that we're looking at.
Yeah, and that's, there's a difference that when I sit here and say, hey, look, he needs to be in, well, he is. It just happens to be digitally. Yeah. And so there's elements of that. Yeah. I don't know that this is resolved, and it's also not anything that's deeply serious or anything like that. No. It's just interesting how your kids... Let me just pull this back in the empty nest for a second. It's amazing how your kids, even when you're empty nesters, can find a way to create, as we keep saying it, healthy discussions between a couple.
sure. And I mean, that will continue to happen. I'm sure even when they're married, I'm sure there will be discussions about, I don't know if they're doing that right.
Right.
But,
And there could be,
then we can't
and this
say
could
anything.
be either way, right?
Yeah.
It could be, hey, and I'm, because I'm saying it, it's going to sound like I'm saying it to you, but you could have said, maybe saying this to me, hey, we're not involved there. We may feel this, but
Yes.
this is, you know, that kind of
And
thing.
we've had, again, like we've talked about, great examples of that. Your parents never butted in. My parents don't butt in. So,
and they are and they are always available if questions are asked.
Yeah.
They don't butt in.
yeah. So we've been dealing with that.
Dealing with. Now, hang on. Let's say that we've been experiencing that. Yeah. I'm
Again,
being a little bit word facetious.
You know, that our conversation, like I said, has now shifted into, and, you know, I'm also buying, Teagan is also moving into her first college apartment, which luckily is furnished, but, you know, I'm having to buy her new sheets because it's a different size bed, new topper, you know, so I've already started her stack of stuff in one of our rooms. So we have staging areas all over our house right now. So it's just...
And you know, you talk about the staging areas and that sort of thing. Here's another thing. It's not necessarily empty nest. It's just about aging. It didn't take you and me long to say, yeah, we're going to do a mover for a local move. Because I can guarantee 30 years ago for sure, 20 years ago probably, heck no, we can individually carry every single item. We'd U-Haul it. Now I'm like, You guys show up, you load your truck, you take it down there, and you load it up.
And it's getting stuff, because most everything Tanner's taking is upstairs.
On a third floor.
Yeah.
Effectively a third floor.
No, I mean from our house, getting it
Oh,
down.
that's right. So second to first and then first to third.
So I my moving days, and like I keep saying, my painting days are done. So
even when we were talking about moving the studio into another room in the house, you're like, yeah, I don't want to paint again. All right, we'll stay in this room.
So, but then, you know, we're also throwing in another element of car shopping for
Tanner has been driving a vehicle that was provided to him by your parents. He actually bought it. It was just a very low price. There's a fun picture of what that low price was.
My dad sold it to him for $1, and it has been it's been great.
Yeah. It's just, it's time. You know, it's a vehicle that it's time. And so who was walking around car lots yesterday at 100-degree weather?
Yeah.
That'd be you and me.
And that's, I mean,
trying to find vehicles and honestly just even
so
see
hot.
vehicles.
That's the thing, is that we already kind of had and again, we're not picking this car for Tanner. It is his graduation gift, so yes, we are paying for it. But he is not a car guy. That's not his thing. And he's always said, I'm not buying a luxury vehicle until I can afford it myself. Great. So, you know, we kind of know the ones that would be
appropriate for a 22-year-old on campus.
Right.
Or near campus and dealing with you're not parking at the Old Navy in Prosper where there's a ton of space, right? There's
so
a tighter lifestyle down there.
So we started, just because we wanted to, again, because we have such a small window, here's what we found, and he's told us what he's seen driving around. But, you know, we haven't been in this category like for a while, so I know nothing about them. So I wanted to just see them and physically see the cars, and, you know, it makes a difference seeing it on the website versus seeing it in person.
Yeah, there's a particular car that and unless a brand sponsors us, I'm not mentioning anybody's brand right now. Now, if dealerships you want to sponsor us, well, we'll talk about your brand. There was one that I was really hot for that I thought was top on the list, and then once we saw it, not so much. And so there is an element of seeing it physically. I am not looking forward to. I mean, I haven't bought it. I guess your car was different because we built it. It was a different market. We built it. We got a tiny deal. We haven't really bought a car since, I guess, Teagan Subaru. And so I know how to play the game. I just don't enjoy the game. And the key to the game is not showing up at the dealership. I've done it all over email, and it'll be fine.
But we just have to go. He has to drive them. So that's why we were just trying to compile a list of, okay, let's hit this, this, this.
Yeah.
And, see.
That's what it'd be great if he could knock out a few tests out there. I just don't know that he'll be able to. But if he could, great. But otherwise, we'll knock it out here.
Yeah.
We'll see. So, yeah, we got to figure out how to get back to being an empty nester for real. Otherwise, well, we don't have a podcast anymore. We actually are just the loud, quiet, living your kids' lives. And so that obviously is not what we want to do. And so we did. We finally had a just you and me date last night.
So, and
air quotes around date.
I was thinking about this morning. I was like, it's kind of funny because that's where we went before the Hootie concert, which was kind of our
I don't remember that.
first
I remember Hootie.
Official date. We hadn't defined the
we were such
relationship
friends
yet,
first.
But yeah, we went to the one down on Greenville. But so
we haven't said which one that is.
So Teagan loves this restaurant. I don't think I've been to one I was trying to think about that. It was a cheer comp. We were dying of hunger. You weren't with us.
No, but that makes sense.
And another mom and her daughter. And it was the first thing we saw. And so that would have been 6 years ago. And so Teagan's been talking about it all summer. She goes probably every other week. And you kept saying, let's go back.
and this is a classic example of advertising working, because this restaurant has started it's been around for a while, but a 3 for Me promotion. And the advertisement showed their classic burger that used to be so good. And so, yes, we decided to finally go to Chili's because I have been talking about the 3 for Me, and Teagan loves the place. And so you and I sat at a high top in the bar and enjoyed Chili's. I felt like we were mailing it in, but then we kind of enjoyed it.
It was okay. The food was
what did I say? It was good, not great.
The chips and salsa are always great.
There you go.
The food was good. The French fries were great. The burgers were a little overcooked, but that's fine. But to get out of a place for under $50 with 2 alcoholic beverages, good Lord. Okay.
3 for Me.
Yeah. And I didn't even do the 3 for Me. But it's just, when you got our bill, I said, wait, that's crazy. So while we were sitting there, I texted Teagan. This is our text chain. And I said, hey, we're at one of your favorites, 3 for Me. I mean, she got you went without me.
Question mark.
Not happy. And I said, we haven't been here with you in years. The last time I went with her was at that cheer con. And she said, yeah, but still, you went to Chili's the one night I couldn't. I'm hurt.
We will have to do a little relationship restoration here.
Oh, my gosh. I was like, Teagan.
It was fun.
Chili's, but I mean,
she was at work.
She enjoys it, and she's introduced some people to it out in Arizona that had never been, and
it brought back some memories too. You and I talked about when we would go when we were not necessarily her age, but younger than her age. But she started going at this time. It was a lot of times with our church youth group after church and I didn't go out to eat
Sunday
every
night
week.
Church we would get we did it on Sunday night church.
That's
after,
right.
Yeah,
we didn't do Sunday night church, but that's when choir rehearsal was on Sunday evenings. Well, of course, as we've discovered that our music director was your music director's father, so there was a lot of
the Baptist churches did it back then. So when they had youth choir, but
we didn't get sponsored by Chili's, but we talked about them. But
no, and you and I were trying to think. Did we bring the kids to this one very much? We did some, but we would get takeout from it because. In the beginning in Frisco, where we lived, that was one of the first restaurants.
Yeah, it was probably one of 5 restaurants.
And when we lived in Flower Mound, when the kids were way younger, we used to go to the one. There was one literally down the street from our subdivision. And I tell Teagan, I'm just, Chili's is in their blood because both of them, not just one, both children have projectile vomited all over me
at Chili's.
I mean, and
Bet you enjoyed that.
It had nothing to do with Chili's. But I mean, I remember we went after church.
Yeah.
And before we even got our food,
Brap.
all over me. Thanks.
And these were babies, right? Yeah, this is not your toddlers. This was still. Well, yeah.
Tanner must have been because we didn't move over there till he was almost 3.
Yeah, I guess.
And it was that bet, yes. So
there you go. I had a way to leave it on that one. So here's why we have to get back to being in the empty nest, because so we can have experiences like Chili's.
I think, well, no, but what's funny
is that the message?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because what's funny is this week revolved around our children. And where did we go to dinner? Chili's. I'm sitting there like.
You did, but you're right, though. It's a bit of a circle back, too. And not that was. Here's what our motivation was. We didn't feel great. We'd been talking about it. And that's what that restaurant fits. All right, you want to get something good and not think about it? Here we go.
Get something good.
Good, not great. Good, not great.
Yeah, it was fine. And
that's not their jingle, by the way. What was it? There was a movie in the 80s that was some ad. Somehow he started doing truth for his advertising. Maybe I'll look that up. But it was like Volvo. They're boxy, but they're good. That kind of thing. So that could be Chili's honesty.
So yeah, so we have probably 6 more weeks until they're both kind of back into their.
Yeah, because I haven't even talked to you about this, but I've already started looking at, okay, what are the places that we can go? And I looked at weekends and I was like, you know what? Nope. Late August, early September.
We can't.
Yeah. But I've started that, and it really did start to show. That's when I noticed the calendar. And it was the reverse of it, though. Not, oh my gosh, there's not much time, but rather we're about to be in that phase again.
The summer.
Are we going to have to do like almost that same reset?
Maybe. June was real slow. July has already, probably because we were both just not feeling great.
Sure.
But, I'm already thinking, oh my gosh, next week is almost the middle of July.
We pick up his apartment key.
Yeah.
In 5 days.
Yeah. He'll be home in 2 weeks from today. So, yeah.
My road trip with Teagan is 5 weeks away.
Well, we still have vacation in there too. So, just like to cram it all in at the blazing hot end of summer.
It'll be all right. It'll be all right.
Yes, it will. So.
We will continue to build more and more stories so that we can continue to tell them on The Loud Quiet, Living the Empty Nest.